Hi, I'm Rob from HopZine. Thanks for joining me for another video of beer review, and this time something a little bit different. We've got two cherry beers to go side by side, a bit of a face-off if you will. Both from my local Asda. My local Asda has a horrendous beer range, but these two have been kind of like jumping out at me a little bit from those shelves. Out of curiosity more than anything, and a bit of old YouTube magic as well, I guess. And we've got Kasteel Rouge, and we've got Chouffe, well, Cherry Chouffe. 7%, 8%. Interestingly, both of them based on kind of like a Belgian strong dark beer, which have had cherries added, macerated cherries on regarding the Kasteel, I think. So, I've never had the Chouffe one, but I have had this a long time ago. I was never much of a fan. I've not had it for a long time. Well, my opinion will have changed in the meantime. So let's get it open into a glass. It's interesting, is the whole thing with bottles as well. Belgian beers, bottles. Are they going to piss everywhere? Who knows? Sticky cherry beer all over my floor. Who knows what's going to go on? But you mean, yeah, when I started getting into beer, one of the beers what kind of came into my sphere was it'd be Leafman's with a paper wrap around it, the creek and the framboise. What's wrong with me? But the base of that is a sour Belgian brown ale called Gudenband, which I fucking love. So I'm quite curious when I mean, it was just me having a little bit of an internet search into both these beers before, and I'm like, wow, how interesting. So this is essentially based in the Donker, which is a strong Belgian, in some circles they call it a barley wine, but a strong Belgian dark ale. And then it's got macerated cherries in it. It's a 7% this one though. Appearance wise, you're getting it, you can just about see through it. It's pretty dark, very dark crimson, edging towards, no, it's not enough blue in it to be purple. It's definitely red, but you can see a little bit of light coming through it. I can see a little bit of light coming through it. The head is that odd reddish brown hue, beige brown reddish thing. Look at that, that's such a bizarre head. Great condition on the beer, you cannot question that one little bit. So, swell sniff, let's check out the aroma on the Kasteel Rouge. Okay. Yeah, I always think of this being really synthetic, and in the UK you get these sweets. They're a bit old-fashioned in a lot of ways, I'd say. Called, have I got my mic on? No, I haven't. Yeah, I have. I'm such a fucking pro. Called cherry drops, and I really don't like. I don't like specifically much, which is kind of cherry flavored. I don't mind cherries. I'm like, oh, I'm up for a Black Forest scatter. Don't you fucking worry. But you know what I mean? It just the whole cherry flavored things, not my bag usually. And I always thought about that with this. But you know what? I love a bloody cherry Bakewell. But when I were a kid, I'd take the cherry out and give it to my mum. So it does have a little of that frangipane. It's got a bit of that almond thing going on. Maybe we're going to get a bit of that. I'm maybe predicting the preceding couple of hours of a sip on these. It does have a cherry Bakewell thing going on, and in that sense, it does appeal to me. I don't like synthetic cherry, but I love cherry Bakewell, and it's giving me a big old whack of almond, which I do like almond, that kind of fragrant almond thing. I'm definitely sticking around. Yeah, that kind of like confectionery, those kind of like maybe bootleg sweets, or anything a bit synthetic and a bit gelatinous and cherry flavoured. It's got a bit of that going on. That cherry drop sweets, if you know them, going back, if you're of a certain vintage like myself, you'll know about like Murray mints and stuff like that. I think those cherry drops are around the kind of like similar kind of thing, and it's knocking around that neighbourhood. You say this, the base of this is, I mean, like a Belgian dark ale. I've never had the Donker actually. I've got a good friend Daisy. She loves this brewery and she loves all the beers that they're making. She loves the Donker. I've never had it. Maybe I'm gonna have to change those things. I always get myself into German beer, but more than Belgian beer. Even though Belgium was definitely the beers that got me into beer. Anyway, less waffling. Let's a bit more supping, lad. Come on, let's dive in. Cheers, Kasteel Rouge. Okay. As somebody who reviews a lot of IPAs and sometimes stouts, definitely not like anything like this. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, okay. Maybe cherry syrup. There is a fizzy confectionery kind of quality to it. It's quite a brief experience in a lot of ways. It zips along. Carbonation's pretty high. You do feel it on the tongue. I mean, this is in my local supermarket, as I said. About a 4-minute walk up the road. Look out my window, I can see it. I can see this being popular. I don't know why. There weren't actually that many bottles of this left. I think a bit more of the Chouffe. But each of these left less than £3 a bottle. And in this day and age, when nobody wants to spend any fucking money on beer anymore, come on, support your locals. He says on his supermarket beers. It's purely for the clicks, come on. I'm all about the views. As my subscriber base clearly represents. But no, just a disclaimer. I just find it. I always have a look. I like looking at beer. I like looking at beer online. I like looking at beer in shops. I like looking at beer. I like walking in pubs, looking at what's on. I'm curious. And these are beers that always kind of stood out as anomalies in a lot of ways. That these were on my local supermarket shelf. Beers that I class as being of a certain quality as well. But I can see the appeal of this, absolutely. It's not too sweet. It's got a pronounced cherry flavour. It is a little bit synthetic. No, actually, it is a little, yeah. It's not Tiny Rebel synthetic. It is a little bit synthetic. But you are kind of heading down that kind of macerated cherry kind of like route. Definitely that Bakewell thing, like more. It's like a Bakewell with more cherry. If you had like proper like gloopy stewed cherries or something like that on top of a lovely Bakewell pudding. Definitely that kind of frangipane and the kind of almond quality in there, which in itself this is quite pleasant. Is it a beer I'm going to rush back to? Probably not, but not wrong with it. And you mean quality wise, well made. You cannot quibble over that one little bit. Ends quite clean. I personally worry because I don't like the synthetic quality of it. That would linger a little bit too much. I'm just gonna pop the cap back on that motherfucker. So that was Kasteel Rouge. Not bad. So next up, one I've never had before, the Cherry Chouffe. So this is supposedly the McChouffe, which is a Scotch ale. I love a Scotch ale. I love a malty ale. So I'm quite curious. I didn't know that until I was sat on the toilet doing my research for these beers. And this is McChouffe with cherries added. It's 8% ABV. Last time I saw a bottle of this, my lovely partner Becky was drinking multiple bottles at a gig, a very important gig to me, one of my favourite music artists of all time, playing a little gig in Wakefield. It was mind-blowing in a lot of ways, but she got a bit bored of the cask. I stayed on the pints of like 4.3%, 4% cask. She got a bit bored of that, of the farty old man cask, and moved on to bottles of this, and guess who's in better nick by the end of the night? This guy. So beer in the glass just looks fizzier. It looks fizzier. Colour-wise, I think it's a little bit paler. But this, yeah, based on a Scotch ale, that's a donker, a dark ale. Once again, a dark malty ale. I'm getting a little bit more spritz looking at this. A little bit paler. It's, once again, the head is not as tight and creamy. I'd say a little bit bubbly, a bit more rocky. But colour-wise, similar. It's that reddish beige kind of thing. So on a sniff, let's check out the aroma. I can hear it fizzing. That's a fizzy fucker, I tell you. And that's getting in the way of the aroma. I'd say this not half as, I mean, from the aroma, nowhere near as synthetic. Not as much prominent cherries, cherry juice, however they're making it. I'm getting a bit of it. It's maybe a slight hint of nail polish though. You'd expect something maybe even malty or slightly yeast forward from this kind of beer, but it's Belgian. I know it's a Scotch ale essentially. Just trying to knock some of the fizz out of it. Get a right rigorous swirl. Look at that. It's like a fucking pro, aren't I? It's a pro swirler, baby. Yeah. You get a little bit. It's a lot about earthy. It's a lot. Maybe there's a hint of brown bread in there. Maybe a very slight note of kind of. It's taking me towards red velvet cake. But there's definitely cherries there. Not. I mean, if you give people these two blind, as a blind tasting, people would completely go, "That's cherry beer." The Kasteel. This, they'll be a bit like. Not sure. Slightly solventy. This is stronger. You do get a bit of the alcohol phenols. But yeah, curious. Very, very different. But which am I going to prefer? So let's dive in. Cheers on the cherry Chouffe. But then the flavour, completely different. Wow, they're so different. So similar but so different. As soon as it hits your lips, that clean, crisp, quite effervescent. This appeared to be really effervescent. It's not. Slick, slightly oily. Heads towards sweetness, but never goes too far. That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, I can see some. If you take that cherry away, I think I can pick up on traces of what would be quite a malty beer, quite a cherry. I mean, quite a malt forward Scotch ale type thing. It's really drinkable. Really drinkable. I'm not going to get into drinking a fuckload of this, but I mean, in a pinch. I would not turn my nose up at this at all. I'm getting definitely cherry. I think it's more subtle. I think it seems slightly more authentic to me. The Kasteel, as enjoyable as it is, it has that synthetic quality. This does take me towards something a bit more authentic, slightly kind of oak-like, slightly woody in a certain regard. Supping it like some wine expert. I'm on the old cab sav. You do get a hint of the almond, but you are getting something more. If you took yeah, I mean, maybe if you headed towards something like a plum porter, pull it back, not as much roast, maybe not roasted barley, maybe not those kind of darker malts, maybe more toasty malts. This could take you definitely in that direction. Not too sweet. Goes towards sweetness, but really reels it in and kind of softens things out, makes it a little bit woody, makes it a little bit more grown up. Hides its alcohol actually quite well for 8%. I feel it in the ears a little bit in the ears, warming in the ears. But they've really taken me by surprise, both of them. Very different beers, two different markets in potentially in a lot of ways. So shall we do a little bit of side by side and see what I think? Before I do the side by side, I'm edging towards that because that is, it seems a lot more grown up. It's not tart, it's not lambic-esque. I kind of like the idea of it being a brown beer, a malty beer that is carrying those fruits, because often it would be a sour beer. So back to the Kasteel. Yeah, it's a quick experience, crisp. You can probably drink quite a lot of that. Get yourself in some bother as well, mate. They've done a raspberry version, a relatively recent release, I think. Quite curious to try that now. I don't hate Kasteel Rouge. I used to be married to someone who loved that beer, and I was like, oh nah. Now you can have one of them. I'll have the IPA, please, for a base drink for the lady. I was all like, nah, that's not my bag, man. That's a lot more grown up. That's a lot more of a beer drinker's beer. That's got a malty heft to it. Really curious about the Donker now. Maybe I need to do the Donker versus the McChouffe. See how those see, that's too niche, isn't it? This has got broad appeal. That's the entire point, isn't it? I'm giving you a couple of supermarket beers. I'm a channel that doesn't do supermarket beers all that much, and now I'm thinking of trying. I'm regressing. Come on, I'm just trying to make it even less popular. To having to fucking have a Scotch ale in it. No one will go for that, Rob. Shut up. That is my inner monologue in the moment. Yeah, slightly synthetic, enjoyable. Had a hint of kind of confectionery, a bit of the candy floss, something like that. This rounded, malty, cherry flavoured feels more organic. But that's nice. They're both nice. That's a little bit more jammy. And so, out of the two, the Kasteel and the Chouffe, I'm going for Cherry Chouffe. Kasteel did a good job. Not too far off, but I think, for me, the crown or the little gnome hat goes to Chouffe. Worth a go. If you've got an Asda near you, pop in, give this a go. And I think you might be surprised. I'm Rob from HopZine, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.